Location, Alaska. The date is August 7th, 1981. In the remote Alaskan wilderness, deep within the Arctic Circle, 34-year-old wildlife photographer Carl McCunn was looking out at the clear sky from his camp. For the past 5 months, he had been completely alone. No people, no cars, no phones, no radios. The surf was dense forests, snow-capped mountains, and a silent lake. Today, his friend was coming to pick him up in a small bush plane. Carl packed his things. He thought the small plane might not have much airspace, so he threw several boxes of ammunition into the lake. As the last box was about to be thrown, he heard the sound of a wolf in the distance. He made a quick decision. "I'll put one box down. I don't know if it'll be needed." He kept fishing, cooking, writing in his diary, and every now and then looking up at the sky. But the day passed. The plane didn't arrive. He consoled himself that maybe his friend was a little late, but the next day passed too. Then the third, and then Carl remembered that old story. Months ago, when he had talked to his friend Rory about the pickup, the two were busy joking and drinking. Rory had said that he would check his schedule first and confirm. Carl never confirmed again. Now he understood. Rory hadn't even made the promise, and maybe he didn't even remember that Carl was waiting for him in the middle of the forest. Carl hoped that maybe his friend or his father would start looking for him. But then he remembered that a few years ago, when he had returned late from a trip and his father had reported him to the police, Carl had convinced himself, "If I'm ever late, don't bother anyone." Now those words had become the biggest burden for him. Days began to turn into weeks. By the end of August, Carl had two options: either stay in camp and wait for rescue, or try to walk the nearly 75-mile gate to Fort Yukon. But this journey was very dangerous. No road, no bridge, no human settlement, just jungle, swamp, mountains, and wild animals. Living in a remote camp was not easy either. The cold was getting colder every day. The work was slowly getting done. Carl would set traps for rabbits, catch fish, and surf every day to somehow survive. One day when he was in camp, he suddenly heard the sound of an airplane in the sky. His heart beat fast. He looked up at it. A small airplane was coming straight toward him from afar. As the plane approached, Carl saw that it was an Alaska State Trooper's plane. Tears of joy welled up in his eyes. He immediately picked up his bright orange sleeping bag and started shaking it vigorously. The plane came closer. Carl was sure that the pilot had seen him. In a fit of joy, he raised one hand, clenched his fist, and shook it vigorously in the air. The plane passed over him. Then he circled. Carl thought it would be landing now. He quickly began to retract his wings. But after a few moments, the plane changed direction and flew the other way. Carl watched it for a long time, but the plane never returned. That night, Carl could not sleep. There was only one question on his mind. The pilot saw me? Then why did he leave? Unable to sleep, he began to look through the things he had stored in his tent. He had already read the book several times. Magazines too, diary too. Then he caught sight of his hunting license. He began to examine it carefully, and suddenly, his face turned pale when he saw a sentence. It was written on it that if there was a need for protection from the wind, both hands were raised to signal. And if a doubting surfer raised one hand and waved, it meant, all right, no need for help. Carl fell silent. Now he understood. The pilot must have seen him. But after seeing his signal, he knew he was safe. And that's why he turned back? Now the weather had changed a lot. After September, the lake froze. The fish cooking stopped. Rabbit traps are often found open. Kevin's wild animals are already taking prey. By October, Carl had lost a lot of weight. By November, he was exhausted from hunger, cold, and exhaustion. His face was getting thinner and thinner with the frostbite. The wood for the fire was also running out. On November 26th, Thanksgiving Day, he wrote in his diary that there would be no feast, no food today. Just loneliness, cold, and hunger. He felt that he had very little time left. He wrote his last entry in the diary, and then he put the diary next to his camera films. Then he picked up his rifle. The camp fell into a deep silence once again. In February 1982, Alaska State Troopers finally reached the site. They searched Carl's camp. They found his diary and all his photographs, which were later preserved. The investigation revealed that Karl's biggest mistake was not to go into the forest, not to go alone, but to never confirm his pickup plan and to give the wrong signal during the rescue. A single signal convinced the pilot that Karl did not need any help. And such a misunderstanding changed a life forever. The lesson of this story is not only survival, but also the importance of planning, communication, and emergency signals. Sometimes the consequences of a small carelessness are very big.